I wanted to do this gratitude and acknowledgement in the beginning of the program itself, because this is the journey. Creating a book is the result of many kind of years of engagement and involvement, and then comes this ceremony like this. I heard about Dr. Rajvanshi in 2013, then 2015 when Nishaji was with the Vivekananda Institute, and she had the good fortune of hosting Dr. Rajvanshi. So since then we are following and the admirers of his work, and in a way the seed of this book actually sown in that meeting. So thanks to you first for inspiring us to do whatever we can do as an academic. Of course, you all are the social leaders, you are social transformer. Probably we are not, but we are an academic. So I was as an academic, what we can do? We can at least write a book, write a case, tell this, teach this to our students. So that's what we did, and thanks to you first. And then of course, Madam, for being a life partner as well as accompanying him today for the function. So thanks very much for this.
First of all, I extend my gratitude, thanks to Professor Rajvanshi. The first time he motivated me to write a book, directly or indirectly. And the second most important, the moment I asked him to come for inaugurating or launching the book, not even a moment he has taken to say yes. Only said he's coming on 27, 28. What time is suitable for you? Morning or evening? That was the only option. I can come either in the morning or in the afternoon. So I said, it's your choice. We are ready for both. So that was the only choice he's given. Otherwise, immediately said yes. Such a great personality, and without a single thinking about whether I say yes or no, he said yes, I will be there. And it's a great honor for both of us that he said. And other thing is he's alumni of IIT Kanpur and the Padma Bhushan and so many awarded. So I think it is privilege for us as well as for the student to take the experience and learning what he has done at the ground level. And the best part of his life journey, I think one should learn from his life journey, how from IIT Kanpur and from US and everything, he came back and then he started his own institution. And again, for teaching her own daughters, he has started his school. And then now I know the story that his daughters are running the school. Am I right, sir? So that one daughter is running the school. So see how he has developed the ecosystem. That is the example of social entrepreneurship enterprises, that they create ecosystem to work, create job, creating system and managing everything with all how impact it can create in the society. That's what he is in his life. See the example.
I would now like to take immense pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Anil K. Rajvanshi. A huge round of applause, everyone, firstly. Now, please allow me to introduce. Dr. Rajvanshi is a renowned Indian scientist and director of the Nimkar Agricultural Research Institute, NARI, Maharashtra, with over 4 decades of pioneering work in renewable energy and rural development. An alumnus of IIT Kanpur and the University of Florida, he returned to India to drive grassroots innovation. He was among the first to promote the use of high technology for rural development, an idea that is widely embraced today. At NARI, he has led path-breaking work in low-cost, eco-friendly technologies including biomass energy, ethanol fuels, and solar innovations transforming rural livelihoods. He has also authored over 350 publications, holds several patents, and in 2014 became the first Indian to receive the Distinguished Alumnus Award from the University of Florida. He was also awarded the Padma Shri in 2022. Blending science with spirituality, he is often described as a spiritual engineer, reflecting his vision of technology guided by human values and well-being. A huge round of applause again, everyone.
Thank you. Good morning. I never realized that I was the initiator of this. I thought that just a simple half an hour talk at your place, but I am very thankful that it started something, and it's always a pleasure to know that whatever I have done and said, and it initiates. First of all, I am so happy to be back here. I was a full faculty member in 1981. Suhas Sukhatme met me in the United States and he says, you have to come to India. I was coming anyway. I was given a very big job in Tata's, which I refused. I cannot explain. I was maybe too attached to the story of India because my father went to jail with Gandhiji in 1942. Because of my upbringing, I was too much into spirituality at the age of 14, 15, read a lot about the Indian, just maybe old sanskars or whatever it is. And so in a fit of madness and arrogance, I came back to rural Maharashtra. Why I came back to rural Maharashtra? I and my wife, we met in University of Florida. We were both doing PhDs and we both wanted to come. And she said, we'll go to Phaltan, where I come from. So that's how I landed in Phaltan. And it's an old saying that wherever your wife takes you, you go. When I came back from United States, all my, the big honchos in Silicon Valley are my classmates. And I went, we had a very nice program in those times that you buy a $300 ticket and you can go anywhere in the country, United States, for 1 month. So I traveled all over the United States. We had already traveled before, but just before coming, and I told all my classmates, let's go, let's do something for the country, just Janoon. And they gave me a whole list of, this is not available, this is not available. So I said, we are not going back to India for availability, we are going for something higher cost. And majority of the times I found that their wives were very much against going back to India. My friend is Sam Pitroda, and Pitroda always tells me that you are a very unique person because you and your wife both came back. My wife refused. So he was all with Rajiv Gandhi and etc. But I think you have to have the similar type of thinking among both of you to come back and at least to be a part of the madness that I was. So I had this arrogance that I'll change India. India is a very ancient civilization. Great people like Gandhiji and etc. could not change. Who was I? A very stupid small fry. But just arrogance. India did not change, it changed me. It brought in humility, sustainability and simplicity in my life. And that has been the story of my life by living in rural India. But first of all, I would like to thank Nisha and Ashish for inviting me. And this is a very dense book. I'm sorry I could not read the whole book. Now I'll try to read it since it's in a physical form. But I think this is an extremely good book for the students of this area. I run, as Nisha has said, a small rural institute or NGO called Nimkar Agriculture Research Institute. Not only I came for her because she very nicely invited me, but I also came for a very selfish purpose because I've been coming to IIT Bombay since 1981. I used to teach a whole 1/4 course in energy. In fact, there was no energy systems in IIT Kanpur. I and Sukhatme and others, they all started. And the idea was to get students. So all my team in the early 80s were students from IIT Bombay. So one worked for 12.5 years, another worked for 4.5 years. I don't think now I can get a student who can work for even 12 hours. You all want packets. So that's the reason why I have come here. So a lot of your students, we are talking about social entrepreneurship. How many of you would like to come and work in a hard environment in Phaltan? Why I am telling you this? Varghese Kurian had invited me and Nandini to Anand. I spent 3 hours in his office. I spent a couple of days in the whole organization. They showed me everything. 2.5, 3 hours I spent. I could hardly utter a word because Varghese Kurian would never allowed anybody else to talk. So it was just a continuous one way. But read his story. A man who got his graduation in United States from Kerala and coming to the rural rural Gujarat, living in a tin shed and yet developing wonderful things. So I asked him, I said, what inspired you? He says, not me. So there was a photograph of Mr. Patel, who was actually the initiator of the whole thing. And he says, and then Amrita, I forget the last name. Amrita Patel. So she was sitting very decked up and etc. And he kept on saying that she is going to be my successor and etc. She didn't utter a word, but it is a remarkable story of Varghese. And see, who never knew the language, who never knew anything about how to do all this thing, and slowly it'll build up. The same thing happened in my life. I had no desire of doing anything great, it's just there were problems. And a lot of times later on people told me, you were the first social entrepreneur. I never even had heard about the word social entrepreneur, but that was how it started. The idea was to just take the problems. When I came back to Phaltan, there was no electricity. We used to study in the lantern, and as a mechanical engineer, I started thinking something which has not changed in the last 120 years. The lanterns, this kandil, was designed way back in Europe in 1870s or 1860s. So as an engineer, I started working on that, and probably we were the first people who did a lot of work in developing the lanterns, in fact, how many of you have really worked and studied or read in the lantern? Petromax. So Petromax, we started work on that. The mantle was designed in 1860. After that, nothing had changed. I thought the space age materials, the re-entry rocket things would be interested. So I used to be the member of the advisory board of energy. K.C. Pant was the chairman, and we used to advise the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi on that. So I wrote to the ISRO chairman. At the time, ISRO chairman was Satish Dhawan, that I need the material. And the rocket people thought that was the biggest thing that happened. So they advertised a lot that in a humble lantern, our space age materials are being used. It didn't work out, but we worked a lot on this, and I show on the slide all the things. Is a pointer. The first slide, and see, the whole idea was just to take care of the problems that I saw. So there was no electricity, no light, so we started working on lanterns. The whole Maharashtra even today is burning because after the crops are harvested, the farmers want to have the land ready, so this is a waste disposal problem, so they light the residues, and it produces a tremendous amount of pollution, and that is what is happening in Delhi and etc. And so we said, what can we do? And so we developed the world's first gasifier, the biomass gasifier, which ran on sugarcane leaves, the loose leafy biomass. And we were also the initiator of the National Biomass Energy Program. A small institute with a very little bit of resources, we were able to do a lot of interesting things as a nation. The reason why I am telling you is this, that you can be anywhere, but if you think deeply, you can have resources. In those times, to get anything from Bombay, I had to write a letter. After 3 months, the reply came. In fact, when I came to Phaltan, Phaltan was a place where to make a long distance phone call, I would hop on the bus, go to Pune and make phone calls. But there was a Junoon. The problems were there. There was no idea about where my career is going. There was no idea about what will happen. The idea was simply to solve the problem one at a time. And when you continue doing this, after many years, you suddenly realize, you have done a lot of things. So we're very proud. Please, next. We're very proud that this was started by my wife's father, Mr. B.V. Nimkar. He got the Padma Shri in 2006. But many more institutes are needed, and this is where when you talk about social entrepreneurship, this is the type of institutes which are required large number. Social entrepreneurship is not something in the thin air. We have to develop technologies, and not only that, to develop technologies and scale it up. Where we have failed, we have just been inventing most of the times, and when we wanted to get the corporates interested in that, then it was not a very easy thing. And I can give you a very long lecture on this, all this that happened. Engineering and science for development, very little focus on social issues. I said, if Gandhiji could not do it, who am I to do it? We tackled the local problems of environment and energy. So the biomass energy program came from our work. The lanterns, sugarcane leaves burning, renewable fuel. In fact, today, because of the LPG crisis, everybody is talking about alcohol fuel. We were the pioneers of use of alcohol for cooking and lighting in 1980s. And because of our work, when large scale alcohol fuel is being used in Africa and in Latin America. I got one of the major award in Stockholm, and the other person was Tesla Motors. We were the only NGOs, and that award was given for our alcohol lantern. This is way back in 2009. The government of India got very excited. The excise inspector and commissioner came. Who the hell are you to put these lanterns and stoves in rural Maharashtra? You have to get a license. So the extreme excise department's policies, it killed the program. Mr. Joshi, who was a Shetkari Sangh person, he was very thrilled. He says, all my people make produce illicit alcohol, we can use this, and so on and so forth. You can read it in my book. We tackled the problems that I saw or affected me, rickshaws, air, e-rickshaws. How many of you have seen ridden? E-rickshaws is our invention. We are so proud of it. In 1995, when nobody talked about e-rickshaws in the world, we invented e-rickshaws. Ours was the first patent, and then now it is the biggest electric vehicle success story of this country. I did not get a single penny. My patent was the first, because we are all just importing everything from China. All the motors, everything, even the big companies, they make the dibba, nice dibba, but most of the things come from China. There's a lot of demand, there's a lot of need to develop R&D, etc. So social entrepreneurship, any entrepreneurship, to my mind, is a social entrepreneurship, because it really helps the society. This putting it separately, I think, and that's what I wanted to talk about. I have always been concerned whether the fusion of terms social and entrepreneurship fundamentally is an oxymoron. Does the imposition of corporate metrics and profit motives into social issues dilute the efficacy of community interventions? And that you have to answer, because it is not. Or does it provide the necessary engine for sustainability? Furthermore, what are the tangible operational hurdles that organizations faces when attempting to scale impact without compromising their foundational missions? Finally, how does this process fundamentally differ from regular commercial entrepreneurship in its architecture, execution, and ultimate objectives? And so these are the issues that we have grappled in our work. We said we'll first solve the real problems, and that can be done through frugal innovations. We were the first people in the country to talk about high technology in rural areas, and we didn't have the resources of IITs, etc. In fact, a lot of times, it's a very interesting thing, when we developed the gasifier, IIT Bombay, IIT Delhi team came to our NARI. They said, we have not been able to solve it. How do you do it? So I told them, I said, I don't have any great brain or anything. We work 24 hours. We don't go and spend time in the canteen. My people don't say, this is enough. We work 24 hours. And when we do that, all the problems that come, we slowly solve them. We're not great inventors, we're not great scientists or great engineers, we just solve them. And I think that is the essence of everything that you do, whether it is social or technological or anything. If you are at it continuously, without being distracted by your mobile phones and your social media, you can do wonderful things in life. And this is what we have shown in our institute, very small institute with very little resources, but we have been able to achieve a lot of things. So I want some of you, raise your hand, how many of you would like to come and work for internship? I don't think anybody would. Why you raised your hand and you put it back? You're not sure? Come, spend time, no air conditioning, hard work, and there are so many problems. This country has 1.4 billion problems. That's the number of people that have. And most of them live in rural India, 60-65%. And you are all live in this very nice environment. In fact, a lot of the, because where I go and give lectures in IITs and etc., and I keep on telling the directors that you should throw these students out who spend one day more than they are supposed to graduate. Nice places to have sports, free food, almost free food, free living. Where will you get something like that? But I think this is what is required, hard work. And unless until we do hard work, we cannot become a Viksit Bharat. All this Viksit Bharat and all this is totally hot air. It has to be backed by hard work and really bringing these people in the mainstream development. And that is the biggest challenge. So I did some AI research. Everybody does AI research. And this is what I found. What is social entrepreneurship according to AI? It says social entrepreneurship, and I was very surprised by that. When I read this, social entrepreneurship directs its innovative capacities towards engineering solutions for entrenched, complex societal problems. This often involves frugal innovation, creating high impact, low cost solutions tailored for marginalized or improvised population, or process innovation where traditional supply chains are fundamentally reconfigured to provide employment, dignity and autonomy to a disadvantaged groups. I thought somebody from NARI was sitting there and writing this. So I was very surprised because this is exactly what we have done. To give you an example, we developed this land stove. Land stove is lantern cum stove, which is shown on the top. This produces a light equivalent to almost 100-watt bulb, for which we got the award in Sweden, Stockholm. And in the heat of this light, you cook a complete meal for a family of 5. And so this was wonderful. We tested in 25, 23 unelectrified huts. And when we were doing this, I also asked my people to talk with those people. And we found that, and this is almost now 15 years ago, we found that they were spending close to 300 to 400 rupees per month on medicines. And I said, what is there in all of them? It's not that one or two households, almost all of them. And we wanted to ask you, what is the reason for that? Then I started finding out that the reason is that they eat very poorly. This lady or this woman who goes into the field 6-7 hours, she's under the hot sun, and she is supposed to come back and cook for the whole family. Which person would like to cook for the whole family after spending 7 hours in the sun? So what they do, they make bhakris. Bhakris is a very thick Maharashtrian bread, and they eat with tikhat, means chili and salt and etc. Very poor eating. And when you have very poor eating, then you start having a lot of disease. Diseases are always there, but if your immune system is not good. So I developed this whole concept of rural restaurants. I said, won't it be wonderful if we have some way by which these poor people, after working, they can go to these restaurants, they get a subsidized thali and they will have very good food, and at the same time they will not be cooking in their house, so it will not be polluting. So this was developed in 2012. So Bill Gates Foundation heard about this, my concept. It was publicized a lot in the newspapers, etc. So they invited me in Delhi. So I went at the time, Monte Carlo, everybody, big shot, everybody was there. Because when Bill Gates invites, people go. When somebody else invites, people don't go. So I gave my talk, and there was a whole team of these bureaucrats from Tamil Nadu. And they were in my lecture, and they lit into me because I said that rural restaurants should be based upon the McDonald's hamburger concept. Not that we are selling a McDonald's hamburger, but the cleanliness, the quality, the large franchising, etc. And they lit into me, and they all of them were extremely violent. Really, what nonsense, this, that, etc. I immediately knew that yes, it has touched there. Within 6 months after the conference was over, they went to Amma, and they told Amma, let's start this process. And the Amma kitchen, that idli tamasha started. And the person who wrote about this in the Economic and Political Weekly, he wrote to me later on that I came to know that this concept came from you, but I was not aware of that because these bureaucrats wouldn't tell me. From there, it came to Shiv Bhojan in Maharashtra, and today around 6 to 7 crore such. And now because of this, whatever it has happened, by LPG, etc., it has gone down. But I feel that this is the best thing that the corporates can get into the CSR is to supply. And finally, the Cummins and people who are there in our vicinity, I said you can at least give this to your workers, that the poor people, because unless until these poor people have good water and food, their brains will not work. And this is what we have done now. We have developed a very fantastic solar powered cleaning system for the schools, rural schools, and we are trying to see if this can spread. So this is the type of thing that I feel can be a great part of social entrepreneurship, where you actually develop technologies, because all of the things come after when there are technologies, when there are solutions. And social thing will not come unless only you have the real solutions. And this is what we have done. So this is then, this is my book. Go ahead. This is my book. I have made all the books available, free of cost, because I believe that the knowledge should be free. I have written 8 books. In fact, my 8th book is coming, and that is the deep science in India's ancient philosophical thought. I write a lot on spirituality. That has kept my sanity intact. So when the things are not going well in my technical area, I write on spirituality. I have around 150 articles in Speaking Tree and in so many other sites. And this book details all the work we did in renewable energy and sustainable development from 1981 onwards. And I would like you to please read that. As I said 3 years ago, Mr. N. Chandrasekaran, the Tata Sons chairman, he invited me to address the whole Tata group. And 180 of these top CEOs, they were all given a copy of this book. So they were said you to read them. I think you'll find it very fascinating. As some of you are in technology, please read that how in a very resource scarce environment, we were able to do some very good science, technology and development. And that to my mind is a real challenge for all of us. But for a huge country like India, we need more efforts. So if you want to do something social entrepreneurship, come to our institute, learn and set up your own institute like ours. I believe that there should be thousands and thousands of institutes, because the people in urban areas will not look at the rural problems, because they are only interested in the bottom line, and bottom line flows from the top to the bottom, not the other way around. Go ahead. Think about the country. There is more to life than simply making money. So how many of you really only are interested in money? I think all of you. Anytime I go and talk to the students in IIT, the first thing they ask me, what is a packet? Why have we become so greedy? You are a student, right? So you will only money? You will say no. So then come. I'll not give you anything. I'll give you a free place to stay, and a tremendous opportunity to open your brain, infinite capacity to imagine and see what you can do. Happiness and satisfaction are the most important goals. This is at least I have seen in my own life, and so this is what I preach. And I would love to get good IITians to help our cause. Next. Keep on going. Some impact of our work. 10,000 megawatt biomass based power plants was being set in India based upon our policy. Our policy was run by NARI in late 1990s. Then we pioneered the use of sweet sorghum for ethanol and syrup production. In fact, right now everybody is talking about alcohol as a cooking fuel for in place of LPG, and we did this work in 1980s. And if the government of India had, and I used to be a member of the planning commission, etc., I would tell them about these things, and they said, no, this is, people will drink, all sort of things. Anything that in order to stop it, they would give reasons. But I think we would have become a real great nation, because when we are self-sufficient in energy and other things, our wealth comes from our energy and our food. And once we have these things, then that's a really national security, nothing else. E-rickshaws, then rural concepts we developed in 2012, and then we developed all India release of 7 safflower, curdy, safflower oil that comes from our variety. So these are the things that we have developed. Then there's a national sheep twinning program. So we developed a FECB gene. We introduced into the local sheep. So the sheep start having twins, so that the farmers or the shepherds income increase. So these are the things that we developed, because these are the problems that we saw right in front of our eyes, and we try to see how we can solve them. And frugal innovations in less than rupees 15 crores, all our projects were done since 1981. I think in IIT 15 crores are peanuts. So this is the type of thing. Then we got many awards, and we are the only NGO in the whole of India who had 2 Padma Shris. I think this says a lot of what we have done. These are the links. The first is my Tata talk, and I would really like you to all read it, because this is the basis, the essence of what this whole seminar is all about. How a great corporate can help in social entrepreneurship. This whole talk was like that, and I think you will enjoy and see what you can do. But the main focus is, again, do hard work, discussions. We are a great country of doing discussions. We are just continuously keep on discussing. In our institute, we have had large number of people that I have just fired them immediately. I said, no discussion, we just do it. The Nike principle, just do it. And we have found a lot of solutions by doing that. Otherwise, there would have been a continuous discussion on whether this will work or this will not work. I said, we just do it. If it does not work, it does not work. If it works, then we start finding reason why it works. It reminds me of a very famous example. When the Wright brothers, do you guys read about the history of science? When I used to teach in the United States, and when I taught in IIT Kanpur, in fact, I don't know, are there anybody from mechanical engineering department? You are not from mechanical engineering department, right? You are from Sitara. So I started telling my students here that please go and read the history of science, because you learn so much from the history of science, because the great people who produced these inventions, they were great thinkers. And I have been very fortunate to meet a lot of these Nobel laureates. The people who you read in the history books, I met them. I met the father of the modern rocketry, Mr. Braun, who developed the V2 rocket for Hitler. I had a great satisfaction of meeting him, because my professor got the highest NASA award for the Saturn V rocket design, and he was very much involved in that. The reason why I always tell to read the history of science is because some very wonderful ideas come. So when Wright brothers developed their flying machine, von Karman, the great theoretical physicist, the fluid mechanics pioneer, he went to Wright brothers. He said, according to the Newton's theories, anything heavier than heavier than air cannot fly. How did you make it fly? He says, Professor, we have made it flown. It is for you to find out why it flew. This is, I think, what is required. And it's a great thing to read if you have not read. Wright brothers were bicycle repair people. They were 5th or 6th class pass. But their notebooks in which they did all this research on the flying, developing the machines, is a classical example of how engineering is done. None of the IITians would ever do that. And that is the greatness, because they only believed. They did not, they had not gone to great engineering schools. They saw, they found out the problems and they solved it. And systematically when you do that, you start working on the experimental process. And that is how the experiments are done. Michael Faraday, a man who was just a 4th class, he developed some of the greatest discoveries of this modern world. He had very poor memory, so he wrote everything in his notebooks. And I wonder how many of you have read. I have read his notebooks. They are classical things, how a person can think, write, and even while he was writing, he was talking about what could be the reason, why it could happen, why it will not happen. And that is how the great discoveries are made, not by discussions. Discussions come much later on. It's the same thing like, I'm sorry, there are a lot of people who are corporate. Startups. To my mind, startups can only come after you have 25-30 years of experience. When you have just graduated, how can you start a startup? You do not know a damn thing about anything, and you are trying to have a startup. So ultimately what you do is just have some codes, and that is a startup. And 90% of startups in India are code based. They are absolutely bunk. Most of them fail. What we need is startups in the deep tech. What we need, in fact, a lot of times people said that our institute was the first deep test startup. We never knew. Somebody told us. What I feel is that we should have many more organizations like that, and that is what, to my mind, is social entrepreneurship. And I think finally the most important thing in any organization is funding. We have funding because I believe that you can get funding if you have good people. Last year, 2 years ago, I gave invited talk at Silicon Valley because all the Silicon Valley honchos, I know them. So they invited me. They said, we would like to hear about your journey, why you went back, etc. So they all wanted to write the check. I said, no, I do not want a single penny. I need people. And that nobody wants to do. And when you have good people, money flows. This has been my impression and my experience. There are a large amount of money that is there, but you have to have good projects. And sustainability and longevity, especially in social entrepreneurship sector, how do you create the organization that runs not because of the author of SE? And this I find is a real problem. I also feel that in our institute, after I go, whether this will continue or what will happen, and we should think about such conditions where the social entrepreneurship continues even when the original author has left. So I am not sure whether such an organization exists. However, I have seen that the closest example of this comes to my mind is that of temple construction. Temples have been created for hundreds of years. What guides them? That they continue with the same fantastic workmanship year after year. And I think it is a higher thought. So if we can imbibe in the social entrepreneurship sector the higher thought, then that is the guiding principle in which the sector will proceed. Otherwise it will just become another, like in my case, a vanity, that after I leave, nothing will happen. Again, best wishes to Nisha and Ashish for this wonderful book, and I am sure that it will be a very important addition to the sector. Thank you very much.